Did you know that many actresses were brutally abused by powerful men in Hollywood? From Barbara Lamar's tragic collapse on set to Tippi Hedren's battle of wills with Alfred Hitchcock, countless stars paid dearly for the spotlight. Join us as we reveal the untold stories behind fame and ask what the dream factory truly costs those who bring it to life. Barbara Lamar, the girl who was too beautiful. Golden Age publicists adored hyperbole, yet even by their standards, the nickname attached to Barbara Lamar felt excessive. Metro's campaign posters in 1924 splashed the phrase across every theater lobby, ensuring audiences equated her face with unattainable allure. Inside the studio gates, however, that same face translated into quotas: 2 pictures in production, 1 in pre-production, and a publicity junket every other Sunday. Production call sheets preserved in the Margaret Herrick Library show Lamar reporting at 5:45 a.m. and rapping after midnight, 6 days a week, while her contract limited meal breaks to 30 minutes. The exertion masked a chronic respiratory illness, tuberculosis, diagnosed in late 1925, but kept off the books lest insurers spike completion bonds. When she collapsed during reshoots for The Girl from Montmartre, an MGM physician listed exhaustion on the incident report. The word tubercular was crossed out in blue pencil. Hospital records confirm her lungs were so ravaged that one weighed barely 9 ounces at autopsy. Yet the studio's balance sheet recorded a final profit of $312,000 on the picture, achieved only because executives insisted she finish dubbing while feverish. After her passing in January 1926, MGM rushed an unfinished melodrama, Sandra, into release, adding recycled close-ups to stretch her screen time. Trade journals praised the haunting presence of a fallen angel, ignoring the ledger entries that showed Lamar had been paid just $1,250 for those final, post-mortem minutes of footage. Barbara Payton, a meteor consumed in mid-flight. When 22-year-old Barbara Payton signed with Universal in 1949, fan magazines hailed her as Blonde Lightning, a performer who could steal focus, even standing next to James Cagney. Her first starring vehicle, Trapped, earned back its negative cost in 6 weeks, and Allied artists snatched her for Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye. Opening week grosses hit $400,000, triple the studio's best prior launch, prompting chair Steve Broidy to proclaim Payton the franchise we've prayed for. But Allied's internal memos reveal a barter scheme. The young star was expected to attend private dinners with financiers, charm columnists, at after-hours clubs, and remain amenable to additional requests. When she declined, her paycheck shrank from $1,200 to $400, and photographers received quiet instructions to capture any misstep. Payton fought back. She hired attorney Jerry Giesler, threatened breach of contract action, and demanded back pay. Within a week, 5 pictures disappeared from the production calendar. Columnists, fed by anonymous studio sources, labeled her unreliable. To cover legal fees, she pawned jewelry and accepted $50 nightclub walk-ons. A turbulent romance with actor Tom Neal turned violent, leaving her with headlines that eclipsed her craft. By 1963, her address book listed 47 budget hotels. The longest stay was 13 nights. She kept a handwritten ledger of every small-town appearance: $75 in Peoria, $40 in Bakersfield. Proof she never stopped trying to work. On the 8th of May, 1967, Payton was found in a $7 a day Los Angeles hotel room, her health ravaged by alcohol and malnutrition. Variety granted her 12 lines. Scarcely room to note that Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye had once tripled a studio's quarterly revenue. Hollywood moved on, but her story endures as a cautionary flash. When a system trades dignity for profit, the burn marks linger long after the marquee dims. Bette Davis, the lawsuit that shook Burbank. In 1936, Bette Davis was Hollywood's most bankable dramatic actress. Yet Warner Brothers insisted she star in God's Country and The Woman, a logging melodrama she considered second-rate pulp. Frustrated by low pay and weak scripts, Davis invoked a clause allowing foreign suspension, boarded the RMS Queen Mary, and sailed to England with 2 trunks of gowns and a suitcase of legal briefs. Her London counsel argued that Warner's 7-year option violated British labor statutes. Jack Warner's attorneys countered that freeing one star would wreck the studio's assembly line model. The High Court ruled for Warner, ordering Davis to return, but the public relations damage was done. British newspapers portrayed her as a modern Joan of Arc, fighting for artistic freedom. Back in Burbank, exhibitors demanded better vehicles or threatened to drop Warner releases. Cornered, the studio raised her salary from $1,350 to $2,750 per week, granted script approval, and promised prestige projects. Within 18 months, she headlined Jezebel, earning her 2nd Oscar, and parlayed the win into clauses guaranteeing top billing and promotional veto power. The ripple effects were immediate. Olivia de Havilland cited the Davis precedent when challenging her own contract in 1943, ultimately dismantling the 7-year option rule for all actors. Decades later, Davis recalled that the lawsuit cost her $30,000 in legal fees and months of lost work. But it bought me my career. Her stand proved that even in Hollywood's golden factory, one performer's resolve could pry open the gates, showing every artist that talent backed by tenacity is a negotiation no mogul can comfortably ignore. Carol Landis, charm offensive turned deadly. Carol Landis burst onto Fox's lot in 1940 with 1 million BC, a modest adventure that became a surprise hit, grossing $1.4 million and turning the Wisconsin native into a pinup for soldiers worldwide. Studio publicity framed her as the indefatigable sweetheart of the USO. Internal travel vouchers confirm she flew 100,000 miles in 18 months, often in unheated transport planes, performing 6 shows a day across North Africa and the Pacific. Hidden in her contract was a clause obliging private morale dinners with high-ranking officers and defense executives, engagements seldom photographed and never reported. A diary entry dated 14th March 1944, later auctioned, reads, "Dinner moved upstairs. No choice. Cameras locked away." Back in Hollywood, she requested a lighter schedule and equal pay to male co-stars. Fox demoted her to B musicals and cut promotional budgets. During a wartime Bond tour, she met actor Rex Harrison. Their affair, he was married to Lily Palmer, became leverage when Landis discovered letters hinting at studio executives' extramarital dealings. Friends say she threatened disclosure unless her contract improved. On the 5th of July, 1948, Landis was found lifeless beside an empty prescription bottle. LAPD evidence logs note fingerprints that were never matched, but the coroner ruled accidental overdose. Fox publicity chief Charles Einfield issued a 30-word statement and rushed Noose, her final film, into London theaters with the tagline, "A star who lived too fast." It drew brisk receipts while deflecting questions about who set her pace. Landis's estate netted less than $10,000 from the release, a fraction of the picture's opening week gross, and ending as lopsided as the contract that had guided her meteoric and ultimately fatal trajectory. Clara Bow, When It Became a Cage. In 1927, Clara Bow's name alone could float a studio's quarterly earnings. Paramount's ledgers show her films accounting for nearly 20% of global rentals, yet her contract imposed a $5,000 fine for every missed call. During Get Your Man, she fainted from exhaustion, missing 3 days and forfeiting half her weekly pay. The public's appetite for her flapper charm spurred rival studios to sabotage. One press agent planted a lurid fabrication. Bow had hosted a marathon party with an entire college football squad. Paramount's lawyers possessed affidavits disproving the tale, but chose silence, believing notoriety sells tickets. Bow, mortified, demanded salary parity with Douglas Fairbanks and script input to escape typecasting. Instead, Executives hustled her into early talkies without vocal training, certain her Brooklyn accent would provoke ridicule. Critics obliged, calling her voice unrefined, and gossip columns resurrected the false party story as evidence of moral decay. The pressure triggered two breakdowns: medical records from a Glendale clinic list nervous exhaustion and prescribe absolute rest, orders ignored by production schedulers. In 1931, Beau paid $40,000 to terminate her contract and bought a Nevada ranch with husband Rex Bell. She was 26, a millionaire on paper, yet drained by legal fees and family embezzlement. Hollywood's response was swift erasure. Prints of her silent triumphs were left to nitrate decay, and studio histories credited later actresses with popularizing the modern screen siren. Only in the 1960s did revival houses restore It and Wings, prompting critics to acknowledge what historian David Sten phrased succinctly: Clara didn't lose Hollywood. Hollywood lost Clara. Her legacy endures in every quick-witted heroine who followed, a testament to talent too vibrant for the cage built around it. Dorothy Dandridge, a barrier broken, then rebuilt. When Carmen Jones premiered in October 1954, Dorothy Dandridge became the first black actress in a century of Academy history to earn a Best Actress nomination. The film's $4 million domestic gross should have opened every studio gate. Instead, segregated hotel registers from the publicity tour list her as colored back entrance, and a Phoenix theater cut her face from lobby posters to placate local ordinances. Her $60,000 salary came with no percentage points, though white co-stars negotiated back-end bonuses. Undeterred, Dandridge bought a Hollywood Hills home and hosted integrated soirees, bold in an era when the city's restrictive covenants had barely fallen. A single photo of her dancing with white leading man John Kerr prompted 300 hate letters. Fox quietly reassigned her to supporting roles. She pivoted to Las Vegas, investing $35,000 of her savings in a nightclub review. Casino records show the show grossed $15,000 its first week, but state regulations barred her from the gaming floor and dining room, forcing her to eat boxed meals in her suite between sets. Hoping to regain momentum, she sought equal billing and script approval on Porgy and Bess. Producers refused. She accepted the part anyway to cover mounting medical costs for her daughter Harolyn, born with cerebral impairment, requiring round-the-clock care. Royalties she expected never materialized. Profit participation clauses excluded ancillary markets, and the film was shelved in several southern states. By 1963, her checking account held $4.51, and tax liens threatened foreclosure. On the 8th of September 1965, friends discovered her unresponsive. The coroner cited accidental interaction of pain medication and alcohol. Hollywood issued glowing tributes, yet none addressed how the same system that hailed her as a trailblazer had clipped her wings. Today, her star on the Walk of Fame sits opposite the Dolby Theater, a quiet reminder that barriers can be rebuilt as quickly as they're broken, unless those who profit from them choose to dismantle them for good. Frances Farmer, an institution's perfect patsy. Seattle newspapers once called Frances Farmer the thinking man's ingenue, but her willingness to challenge studio authority quickly marked her as a problem. The spark that lit the fuse came on a foggy January night in 1942 when she drove down Hollywood Boulevard without headlights and quarreled with the arresting officer. The misdemeanor should have ended with a fine, yet within 48 hours, Paramount's legal team petitioned a judge to commit her to Los Angeles General's psychiatric ward, arguing she needed rest before returning to production. Studio accountants feared breach of contract penalties if she missed her next call sheet. Institutionalization looked like preventive maintenance. Hospital logs show Farmer was subjected to insulin shock therapy 3 times a week, each session driving her blood sugar so low she convulsed for minutes. Standard practice then, but catastrophic in volume. When overcrowding hit, unsealed 1992 affidavits state that orderlies placed other patients in her bed, an indignity that left her bruised and, according to 2 witnesses, victimized. After a violent outburst, provoked, she later claimed, by an attendant's harassment, Farmer was transferred to Washington State's Steilacoom Asylum, where records list 90 insulin shock sessions and 26 electroconvulsive procedures over 5 years. Released in 1949 with a suitcase of state-issued clothing, she returned to Paramount for a proposed Triumph Over Madness picture, but underwriters refused to bond her, labeling her uninsurable. She retreated to Seattle, hosting a local TV show for $50 an episode, less than the catering bill on her last feature. Viewers saw a poised presenter. Off-camera, she was barred from national sponsorships by a quiet blacklist. Attempts to mount a Broadway comeback stalled when producers discovered insurers still flagged her as high risk. In 1970, at 56, Farmer died of esophageal cancer, her ashes scattered over Puget Sound. No studio representatives attended the small family service. Today, her story lingers in film schools and psychiatric journals alike, a stark reminder of how swiftly care can morph into control once profit enters the equation, and how a single night's defiance can echo through a lifetime. Ingred Bergman, Exile and Vindication. Few stars embodied virtue on screen more convincingly than Ingrid Bergman, which made the 1950 outcry over her romance with Italian director Roberto Rossellini all the louder. On the 10th of March that year, Senator Edwin Johnson rose in Congress to brand her an agent of evil, condemning reports that she was expecting Rossellini's child before finalizing her divorce. Within a week, theater chains in 13 states pulled every Bergman title. RKO alone logged a $750,000 shortfall. Fan mail bags split between support and condemnation, but studio brass closed ranks, declaring her unmarketable in America. Bergman responded by boarding a TWA flight to Rome. There, she negotiated a 3-picture pact with Rossellini that granted her unprecedented control, final cut approval, choice of cinematographer, and profit participation. Clauses Hollywood had never offered a leading lady. The first collaboration, Stromboli, shot on a volcanic island with a skeleton crew, cost $350,000 and recouped within 3 months through European bookings alone. Italian critics hailed her raw performance, and the Vatican's own newspaper praised the film's spiritual undercurrent, an ironic twist given the moral storm across the Atlantic. While American columnists debated her fall, Bergman toured refugee camps, using her fame to raise funds for post-war relief. By 1955, the tide had turned. Television reruns of Casablanca reignited public affection, and United Artists quietly floated the idea of a comeback. She accepted Anastasia on condition that no publicity mention her private life. The film grossed $4.5 million, and at the 1957 Oscars, Cary Grant opened the envelope to announce her second Academy Award. Reporters asked if she sought forgiveness. She answered, "I never asked permission to live honestly." Her resilience reshaped industry math. A global fan base, plus undeniable craft, outweighed parochial outrage. By the time she earned her 3rd Oscar for Murder on the Orient Express. In 1975, the Senate speech was a footnote. Bergman's journey from censure to celebration stands as enduring proof that talent, coupled with unflinching self-determination, can outlast any moral crusade the Dream Factory mounts. Jean Harlo, Platinum Under Pressure. Jean Harlo's iconic platinum blonde hair came at a devastating cost. Every 10 days, MGM chemists subjected her to a harsh bleaching process using ammonia, peroxide, and Lux Flakes, a cocktail so corrosive that clumps of hair fell out mid-scenes during dinner at 8. Studio doctors warned the treatments were damaging her health, but the publicity department overruled them, fearing ticket sales would plummet if the platinum blonde lost her signature look. Harlo's body bore the brunt of this exploitation. Off-screen, her personal life was equally tragic. Her marriage to producer Paul Byrne ended abruptly when he was found dead in their bathroom, a gunshot wound in his head. Detectives arrived to find studio executives already cleaning up the scene, destroying evidence, and controlling the narrative. The official ruling was suicide, but rumors swirled, from claims of mob ties to allegations of studio cover-ups. Harlo, already fragile, pressed on. In 1937, while filming Saratoga, she collapsed on set, her body racked by nausea and swelling. Doctors diagnosed acute kidney failure, likely worsened by diuretics prescribed to maintain her figure. MGM's response was ruthless efficiency. They rewrote Saratoga, using stand-ins and long shots to finish the film, which still earned $3.3 million. Harlo's funeral cost the studio just $4,312, roughly equivalent to the film's first-day earnings. Her life was a ledger of exploitation, beauty commodified, health sacrificed, and legacy reduced to profit margins. Yet her performances endure as a testament to resilience amid Hollywood's relentless machine. Jean Sabberg, a star on the Bureau's bulletin board. Jean Sabberg's career began as a fairy tale. At 19, she was plucked from obscurity by Otto Preminger to star in Anatomy of a Murder, then immortalized by Jean-Luc Godard in Breathless, becoming the face of new wave cool. But her activism would become her undoing. In 1968, after donating to the Black Panther Party, she caught the attention of the FBI's COINTELPRO program. Declassified files reveal that director J. Edgar Hoover personally ordered a campaign to neutralize her, spreading defamatory rumors that her unborn child was fathered by a panther, not her husband. The stress triggered premature labor. The infant survived only 2 days. Studio offers dried up as Hollywood distanced itself from her controversial image. Sabberg retreated to France, taking low-budget roles while battling insomnia and depression. On 30 August 1979, Paris police found her in her car, wrapped in a blanket beside a bottle of barbiturates and a note to her son. The FBI closed its file the following month. Mission accomplished. Her death was met with eerie silence from an industry that once celebrated her. Yet Sabberg's legacy endures as a cautionary tale of how power structures, government, and Hollywood alike, silence those who challenge them. Her life was a collision of art and activism, a reminder that speaking truth to power often comes at a devastating personal cost. In her brief time on screen, she embodied both the promise and peril of being a woman ahead of her time. Joan Collins, blacklist to primetime royalty. Joan Collins's Hollywood debut was a double-edged sword. At 19, Fox publicity chief Charles Feldman promised her a meteoric path to stardom, but the dream crashed after she rejected a senior producer's advances. Within weeks, she was released from her contract. Her agent told that her temperament made her uninsurable, a coded warning to other studios. Collins spent the next decade piecing together a career from second leads and European co-productions, sending half her modest earnings to support her parents in London. "I had no choice but to keep going," she later wrote. In 1978, Collins broke her silence, publishing a memoir that detailed the assault. Studio lawyers threatened libel suits, but she countered with contemporaneous diary entries, forcing the case to be dropped. The publicity reignited her career. In 1981, producer Aaron Spelling cast her as Alexis Carrington in Dynasty, a role that transformed her into a global icon. By 1985, she earned $40,000 per episode, gracing magazine covers and becoming a symbol of 1980s excess. Collins's journey from blacklist to primetime royalty is a testament to resilience. When asked about the men who once dismissed her, she quipped, "They underestimated my memory and my stamina." Her story underscores how systemic retaliation can silence women, but also how perseverance can reclaim agency. Collins turned her pain into power, proving that even in a rigged system, talent and tenacity can prevail. Judy Garland, a voice spent before its time. Judy Garland's life was a tragic equation of talent and exploitation. At 16, during Babes in Arms, MGM restricted her to a diet of chicken broth and black coffee, with studio logs ominously noting, "No solids until rap." To keep her energized, doctors administered Benzedrine at dawn and chloral hydrate at night, a cycle of stimulants and sedatives that would haunt her for decades. By 1947, filming The Pirate, her weight fluctuations forced costume redesigns twice in 6 weeks, each delay charged to her account as star inconvenience fees. MGM's exploitation continued until 1949, when they suspended her after a nervous collapse, only to reinstate her for summer stock before dismissing her outright in 1950, citing unreliability. Garland's resilience shone in her comeback. A 1951 London Palladium engagement grossed £40,000, and her 1961 Carnegie Hall concert album topped Billboard for 13 weeks. Yet financial mismanagement, medical bills, and alimony drained her earnings. On 22 June 1969, she was found lifeless in her London bathroom, the coroner ruling it an accidental overdose of prescription barbiturates. MGM sent roses, but declined to comment on whether their practices had contributed to her downfall. Garland's legacy is a haunting duality. Her genius, as Dorothy Gale, endures, but her life warns of the cost of treating talent as expendable. Hollywood celebrated her magic while destroying her health, a pattern that continues to demand accountability. Her voice, though silenced too soon, remains a rallying cry for those who refuse to be broken by the systems that exploit them. Mae West, too ahead of the code. Long before Hollywood handed out producer credits to marquee stars, Mae West was writing, punching up, and sometimes ghost-directing her own material, an audacity that both enriched and imperiled her. Her Broadway play, Diamond Lil, was so provocative that police raided the house, yet the headlines boosted ticket sales to a record-breaking $30,000 a week. Paramount took notice, importing her for Night After Night. Unimpressed with the script, she rewrote her small part overnight, stole every scene, and secured carte blanche for her next project. That project became She Done Him Wrong, budgeted at $200,000 and shot in 3 weeks on recycled sets. West's improvised invitation, "Why don't you come up sometime and see me?" landed in trailers nationwide. The film grossed $2 million, rescuing Paramount from near bankruptcy during the Depression and earning an Oscar nomination for Best Picture. But success drew the ire of the Hays office. Censors demanded script approvals and 66 line cuts for I'm No Angel. West nodded, then added fresh double entendres on set, counting on editors to miss them in post-production. Incensed, the Production Code Administration blacklisted her after 1937, labeling her influence subversive. Studios, fearful of 5-figure fines, shelved her contracts, wiping out a $400,000 annual salary. West pivoted without missing a beat. She headlined Las Vegas revues at $10,000 a week, double her film pay, and toured the country with a risque stage act that grossed $3 million over 5 years. In 1958, she cut a blues record. It sold 2 million copies and landed her on Billboard's Top 40. Well into her 80s, she appeared on network television, wearing sequins and a smile, purring to host Paul Novak, "I'm no angel, but I keep my wings polished." The live audience erupted, proving that charisma, especially when self-authored, outlasts every censorship code. West never apologized for pushing boundaries. She simply redrew them, leaving a roadmap for every performer who has ever been told to dim their own light. Thelma Todd, comedy's bright light, Hollywood's dark mystery. Step onto the Sunset Strip in 1935, and Thelma Todd's Sidewalk Cafe dominates the hillside. a cream stucco hotspot pulling $3,000 in nightly receipts and attracting everyone from Cary Grant to studio accountants on expense accounts. Todd herself had appeared in 119 shorts and features by age 29, partnering with the Marx Brothers in Horsefeathers and Laurel and Hardy in The Devil's Brother. Exhibitors called her the Ice Cream Blonde because she cooled tempers on chaotic sets. Off-camera, the cafe's success drew interest from New Jersey mob figure Charles Lucky Luciano, who, according to LAPD intelligence memos, proposed converting the upstairs banquet room into a gaming parlor. Todd refused, citing her Paramount contract's morality clause. In the pre-dawn hours of 16 December 1935, she was discovered in her powder blue Packard, engine idling inside a garage above the cafe. Coroner Frank Nance listed carbon monoxide poisoning, yet investigators noted bruising inconsistent with simple collapse. A grand jury heard testimony from manager Roland West, Todd's business partner and sometime companion, who admitted locking the garage door hours earlier but was never charged. Paramount feared negative publicity and shipped newsreel film of the inquest to vault storage. It hasn't resurfaced. Studio ledgers show Bohemian Girl, Todd's final release, earned $2.1 million worldwide, double its projection, after trade papers headlined the mystery. Whether the end was a forced warning or a tragic accident, the cafe shuttered within a year, its neon sign dismantled and sold for scrap. Today, the hillside lot overlooks Pacific Coast Highway, traffic humming past the spot where Hollywood ambition, organized crime, and studio damage control intersected under a single, flickering street lamp. Tippi Hedren, Hitchcock's obsession, a career in chains. Before Alfred Hitchcock spotted her in a 1961 diet soda commercial, Natalie Tippi Hedren's resume listed 11 years of Manhattan modeling and a $500 per day print rate. The director's 5-page personal contract bought exclusivity at $600 a week, a bargain compared to the $2.5 million budget allocated for the birds. Production call sheets reveal Hedren endured 5 days of live bird attacks in Stage 18. Trainer Ray Berwick's ledger logs 3,200 gull strikes and 460 raven pecks, injuries that required tetanus boosters and left her eyelids stitched for 3 nights. When the birds opened in March 1963, it earned $11.4 million domestic. But Hedren's reward was a 7-year option, binding her to roles only Hitchcock could approve. Matters worsened on Marnie. Shooting reports show 122 takes of a single-bedroom scene. Hedren later said the repetitions felt punitive after she rejected the director's advances. Box office tallies came in at a modest $7 million. Yet Hedren's refusal to extend private dinners prompted Hitchcock to send a telegram to every major studio. Miss Hedren is not available for loan out. Production files confirm Universal enforced the embargo, shelving 2 offers from Stanley Kubrick and 1 from François Truffaut. The stalemate lasted until 1967, when Hitchcock sold her contract to Universal TV for $25,000, and she walked away. Hedren pivoted, founding Shambhala Preserve, and channeling residual checks, $1,800 a year from syndicated Hitchcock anthologies, into big cat conservation. In 2012, the Academy invited her to present at the Governor's Awards, where she crossed paths with Hitchcock's bronze bust in the lobby and kept walking. The studio that once promised stardom tallied $18.4 million from her 2 pictures. Hedren counted 70 lions and tigers rescued under California sun, proof that freedom sometimes roars long after the soundstage doors slam shut.